Hi, I'm Jeff. Imagine standing in a crowd, watching something unfold that you know is wrong, maybe even dangerous, but you don't step in. You tell yourself someone else will handle it. What if that silence, that hesitation, makes you just as responsible as the person committing the act? Today, we're diving into the unsettling world of the guilty bystander effect and why innocence can sometimes be deadly. Psychologists call it the diffusion of responsibility. The more people present, the less likely any one person is to act. It's a quirk of human behavior that has been documented in countless experiments, but in the real world, it can be the difference between life and death. Think about it. If you're one of 20 witnesses, you assume someone else will call the police. But what happens when everyone thinks the same way? One of the most famous cases that exposed this phenomenon was the 1964 murder of Kitty Genovese in New York. The initial reports claimed dozens of people heard her screams and did nothing. While later investigations revealed the original story was more complex, the case still became a symbol of bystander apathy. But here's the unexpected truth. Doing nothing isn't always rooted in apathy. Sometimes it's fear, uncertainty, or the social pressure to stay uninvolved. The psychological mechanics are fascinating. Social conformity plays a huge role. If you look around and see others not reacting, your brain interprets that as a sign that the situation isn't urgent, even when your instincts scream otherwise. This is known as pluralistic ignorance, and it has led to tragic outcomes in situations from street assaults to medical emergencies. But why do some people override this mental trap and step forward while others freeze? Studies in behavioral psychology suggest it often comes down to a combination of personality traits, past experiences, and moral reasoning. People with a strong sense of personal responsibility, or those who have been trained in emergency response, are far more likely to intervene. In other words, the decision to act isn't just about the moment. It's about the mindset you've been building long before that moment arrives. Real-world examples drive this home. In 2011, a man in China named Wang Yue was struck by a van and left lying injured in a busy market street. Security footage captured multiple passers-by walking around her body, some even glancing down, before help finally arrived, too late to save her. The public outrage that followed wasn't just about the tragedy itself, but about the collective moral failure on display. And here's why it really matters. These aren't isolated incidents. They happen in cities, in small towns, in every culture. But here's something you probably haven't heard before. In some jurisdictions, doing nothing isn't just a moral failure, it can be a crime. Duty to rescue laws in places like France, Germany, and parts of Canada make it illegal to ignore someone in need when you can help without endangering yourself. That legal angle flips the equation entirely, turning bystander inaction into a punishable offence. It raises the question, should more countries adopt these laws, or would they just create new problems? Stay with me, because what comes next will surprise you. We're going to break down the psychological triggers that can turn an ordinary person into an unwitting accomplice, and how even silent approval can be as corrosive as the act itself. One of the most insidious forms of guilty bystander behavior is tacit approval, when silence or inaction signals acceptance. In criminal psychology, this is often referred to as passive facilitation. You might not be holding the weapon, but your presence and lack of objection can embolden the perpetrator. In group crimes, especially among adolescents or in tightly knit social circles, this effect can be magnified. People worry that speaking up will fracture relationships or make them a target, so they say nothing, and that silence becomes a shield for the wrongdoer. Take, for instance, corporate scandals where illegal practices flourish for years. Many employees know what's happening, but the fear of losing a job or being ostracized keeps them quiet. Psychologists liken this to the spiral of silence, where the perceived cost of speaking up outweighs the moral cost of complicity. The chilling part? Over time, repeated inaction reshapes your moral compass, making it easier to ignore wrongdoing in the future. Neuroscience offers another layer to this. Brain imaging studies have shown that when people witness distressing events, the amygdala, the brain's alarm system, activates. But if the same individual sees others not reacting, the prefrontal cortex can override that alarm, dampening the impulse to act. Essentially, your brain negotiates with itself. If no one else is moving, maybe it's not my job to move either. This split-second recalibration can be deadly. The law sometimes steps in to bridge that gap between morality and action. In the United States, there's no general legal duty to rescue, but there are exceptions. Certain professions, police officers, teachers, healthcare workers, carry a legal obligation to intervene or report. In some states, specific Good Samaritan laws protect civilians who step in to help, reducing fear of legal repercussions. This legal safety net can make a measurable difference in bystander intervention rates. But culture also plays a powerful role. In countries with strong communal values, helping behaviour is more common. For example, research from Scandinavian nations shows significantly higher rates of intervention in public emergencies compared to countries with more individualistic cultures. The difference often comes down to shared identity, a belief that what happens to one person affects the entire group. So, how can ordinary people avoid falling into the guilty bystander trap? Training and preparation are key. Bystander intervention programs, often taught in universities and community centres, rehearse scenarios so that recognizing and responding to emergencies becomes second nature. The idea is to break the psychological freeze before it sets in. Just as importantly, they teach people how to act safely, so fear doesn't become an easy excuse. And here's the unexpected truth: breaking the bystander effect doesn't always require grand heroics. Small actions matter. Making eye contact with the victim, calling emergency services, or directly telling someone else to help can shatter the chain of inaction. Those moments of initiative can ripple outward, prompting others to act and turning a passive crowd into an active rescue. The next time you're in a situation where something feels wrong, remember this: inaction is still a choice, and sometimes it's the choice that allows harm to continue. The question isn't just whether you could live with the consequences, it's whether you can live with yourself knowing you had the chance to stop them. So what would you do if the moment came and all eyes turned away?